everybody. My name's Sol Lakatsky. I'm the Managing Director of Spirit Technology Solutions. Welcome to the Spirit Investor Call and presentation. Today, I guess, is a day where we begin to explain the operating model for Spirit Technology Solutions, which will be a key agenda item to explain what the organisation has constructed in terms of its markets, its products, and a number of the acquisitions that have occurred through the year. So the agenda today is to run through the Spirit Technology Solutions operating model and those key markets. From there, we'll have a discussion with Julian Haber, who is one of the last acquisitions we completed only last week with his business Intalock. So we'll then also move to a Q&A session with Kai Williamson from We Communications to discuss what we are planning for the future and also the Intalock business. First slide, I hope everybody can see that. Maybe just a quick thumbs up, Kai, if you can see that, that's okay. Thank you, excellent. So I guess in terms of what we've been building at Spirit Technology Solutions, or the Spirit Telecom brand as you've seen it before, has been a number of acquisitions, organic growth, acquisitive growth. But I'm proud today to be able to stand here and say we're not just an expanded operating model, we're an expanded range of services from a geographic perspective, from a technology perspective, and more importantly, from different target markets. So not only have we grown, but we've put together a very compelling proposition of services for the exact market as well. You would know the first market that has been the traditional market for Spirit Telecom and now Spirit Technology Solutions was high-speed internet. And that is still a core product offering to allow businesses to have a strong pipe and an internet connection. So we still have our own fixed wireless network, which is a tremendously important product when other providers can't provide internet to those organisations. Cybersecurity has always been an important component, particularly in our Trident Technology Solutions business and the BPD business. But today, we're far more from a security provider at the hardware layer or the software layer. We now have full security operations capabilities that Julian will talk to in the coming minutes as well around the Intalock acquisition. And cyber is now becoming a ticket to the game. It's vital when providing those complex solutions, particularly to the mid-market or corporate market where we're winning. Cloud, so we are now one of the leading providers of Azure and Microsoft services in the cloud segment. We'll also launch the mobile product in Q3. And as of the 1st of July, we have our own voice platform. And voice is critical in terms of the remote worker for the remote workers that are required during the COVID environment. We also won HP Partner of the Year across our infrastructure and our managed services business in our Trident organisation. So what you have now is a modern product range. We no longer walk into a business and just provide them with a high-speed internet. It is a collective integrated solution. And that's where we're starting to win business. So if you look at some of the commercial results we announced recently, and I'll touch on those, we're winning large multi-site organisations. We can now provide them with high-speed internet, the backup service, the redundancy service, but also we're then having conversation around refreshing their infrastructure, moving them to the cloud. And that's not just the SMB segment. If you look down the second part of the presentation, the operating model, where we traditionally played in that SMB segment with Spirit, we also now play heavily in essential services. So what do we do there? So in hospitals, we provide the high-speed internet. We provide them with infrastructure services. We also, everything from the computers in a hospital to the high-speed internet to the managed Wi-Fi connections. So we're now becoming an integral service provider across those top product tiles that you can see above. And that's vital in a COVID environment. And we're also winning business, not just from incumbents, but we're also creating our own opportunities as we see structural changes occurring in organisations, not just SMBs or professional services firms, but schools who need a remote learning environment for their students or their teachers. And that's where the essential services business has come to life and grown dramatically over the last 12 months. And obviously, pleasingly, we're now stretching ourselves into the corporate government sector. So we looked at this sector in particular and how we would enter that. And at times that can be a high risk sector to actually enter. And we just find and decided that strategically we wanted to enter that sector through cyber. One, because it's a growing market. Two, because effectively cybersecurity is a risk management tool or an IT infrastructure tool for those organisations. And we did that proudly by acquiring and merging with the Intalock organisation. How do we sell and how do we distribute? We do that direct. We have a large sales force now. I'm also proud to say that we have over 300 reseller partners in the organisation now through our wholesale channel. Resellers, we can white label our SpiritX platform. And as you know, we're now the largest aggregator of B2B internet products. And I'll talk about the expanded version of SpiritX in a couple of moments and what you'll see in H2 around that product. So quickly, this has already been on market, but it just shows the size and scale and the growth of the organisation. And in particular, revenue is growing strongly. But for those investors out there, I think probably, set your eyes on the order book. We're seeing orders just on the recurring revenue that came through the November period of $6.9 million. So not only are we growing from a revenue perspective, but we're growing from a recurring sales perspective. And I can tell you that, we're pretty bullish on H2. There's enormous demand for our services in that bundled offering. So we're pretty confident that we can increase that revenue growth, not just through acquisition, but also organically. In particular, we're going to focus on the mid-corporate market in calendar year 21. So that might be a 500-seat organisation. That might be a franchise group with 100 sites. That's our target market. So you can see the maturity of the organisation coming through. We still have our legacy business in the SMB. We'll continue to scale that. But we're now winning larger deals because we can bring larger ticket sizes and more sophisticated offerings into those organisations. And that means, the kind of deals that we're winning now, to give you a perspective on scale, they're $100,000 to $120,000 monthly recurring revenue, $3 million contracts, $6 million contracts. Because when we bundle those services and sign long-term agreements, they're sticky and they're also larger in their size. So you may give a little bit of gross margin away on the internet side, but you pick that up through a managed service contract, or you pick that up through a cloud offering, or even some of the hardware when we do those infrastructure refreshes. So really bullish and confident coming through H2. So apart from Intalock, which is the cybersecurity offering that'll be integrated across our product set, just some of the tiles that we're working on in H2. Obviously, we continue to grow our reseller group through the VPD business under the leadership of Luke Briggs. We will launch a Spirit Mobile product in Q3. We're in the final stages of those commercial negotiations. We're only really 3 months into selling our voice product off our own platform, where we see higher margins. Obviously, through H2, you'll also see some of the government benefits and the tax benefits filtering through the economy. And as I said before, really good demand in our order book coming through November and December. And NBN EE, there's been a lot of talk around the subsidies for NBN EE, but that product, in some geographies is now half the price, or a quarter of the price of what it used to be. Not only has that product range grown geographically, but it is now at a better and more commercial rate. So we've integrated. We are now a fully subscribed retail service provider for the NBN EE. We can buy that through a third party or through our own channels. So we believe that geography will help us sell more data. And quite simply, when we sell more data, we can have a more mature conversation around what that business solution is. Do they need a cloud infrastructure? Are they looking at reducing the footprint of their office for more remote workers to work? So the more data you can sell, the more organisations you can have a discussion around their entire holistic IT needs. And SpiritX, so we closed the year with just shy of 20,000 SQs or service qualifications or leads coming through that platform. Remembering really that platform was only launched in Jan 1. And the next iteration of SpiritX will have the entire product range coming through for our partners. So in there, you'll have your cloud products, your voice products, all integrated into a marketplace. So SpiritX is migrating to not just a data platform, but a whole of business IT services platform that businesses can plug and play what products they need with their IT services partner. On the M&A side, clearly, look, we've had a tremendous year. I think we've paid well. Our integration is ahead of schedule under the leadership of Mark DeGuardi, our COO. There are still considerable opportunities in the marketplace. We don't have anything in the interim, or I can't see us doing anything this side of Christmas. We're heavily integrating, and we're assimilating, obviously, Julian's business into the group, which is important to us as well. So we'll be acquisitive, but we now have a really important product set that we can generate organic growth. And I really think only through the last 2 months, the actual operating model has begun to operate efficiently. So we're certainly, in my mind, in the very early stages of the maturity of this business model, and there's more to come through calendar year 21. Just in terms of Intalock, introducing that deal, and Julian obviously will dive into the more technical details with his expertise. But we identified this particular segment as a critical part of our portfolio that's required. And quite simply, some may think it's sophisticated. It's actually not. Having a mature cyber offering is just a ticket to the game to some of the larger corporate deals that are required. If I look at some of the client interactions we've had, there is significant risk out there with ransomware attacks. And we've seen many clients look at their cloud infrastructure, look at their telephony infrastructure, who are very worried around their cyber threats. So we just simply had to be there if we wanted to progress into those larger markets with a cybersecurity offering. So we did look at a few assets. Intalock was definitely one of our preferred choices. And I know, in that particular sector, Intalock is a sizable organisation. It comes with quality revenue at around that 24 mil mark and EBIT earnings of 2.3. But I think the most important thing in that particular space are the people. And we're very impressed with Julian and Nicola and their team. So not only do we bring a good commercial business, but we bring tremendous skill set industry that's also maturing as well. So on that note, I'd like to invite Julian Haber, the CEO of Intalock, to the call. Julian, welcome to the call. I'll move to this next slide. Fantastic to have you as part of the Spirit family. And over to you to tell us, for us to learn a little bit more about cyber and the industry that you're certainly an ambassador in and a leader in.
Right. Thanks for having me today, Sol, as well. It's pretty exciting to be here talking about what Intalock and Spirit are going to be doing in the near future. But it's an interesting space, cyber. 2 to 3 years ago, cybersecurity really wasn't on the lips of organisations in the country. And over the last 12 months particularly, that has certainly changed. When the current Prime Minister stood up there early in the year and spoke about what's occurring on a global scale between both cybercrime and nation states, I think a lot of large organisations, and to that matter, small organisations, took notice. And what we're seeing play out at the moment in the Australian market is there is a complete shortage of skilled cyber professionals. It depends with analyst report you read at the moment, but there's somewhere between 14 and 16,000 cyber professionals that aren't in the market that are needed today to meet current requirements. So what we're tending to find from that is a lot of organisations are looking external. They're looking for partners like Intalock to engage with them to ensure that their information and systems are secure. So a lot of that spend is actually going outside of the business, internally inside the business. Trying to retain, recruit, train cyber staff is very difficult. And I think most organisations have realised that. So they have some form of capability internally, and then they use really mature organisations like Intalock externally to kind of fill the gaps and put a wrapper around what they're doing. But it's certainly a growth segment, probably one of the fastest growing segments in the ICT market space today. So next slide. So Intalock it's a full service cybersecurity company. What I mean by that is, we offer advisory services, which are traditionally based around risk-based assessments against particular standards. It's developing incident response plans whereby a customer is prepared that, in the unfortunate event of a cyber incident, that they can respond accordingly in a manner that's, structured and disciplined. We have our technical services business, which is very much built around technology. In that business, we design and implement solutions that increase customers' cyber maturity and filling gaps. We also have a pretty extensive offensive security business, and predominantly they're there to perform testing services against customers' applications, infrastructure, web presence, and then also in collective to that, we run a lot of security awareness training, campaigns. And really what we're trying to do is just trying to educate end users around the risks of cyber and about how they should behave, not only in the workplace, but also on a personal level, to make sure that they're protected, their company's protected as well. And then last but not least, which is really the crown jewel in our organisation, is our managed services offering. And that's pretty much underpinned by a 24/7 security operations centre. We've been building that centre now for a number of years. It is certainly one of the most sophisticated and mature in the Australian market today. And to get to that point, you need to have scale. Like, you can't have capability and maturity without having scale. So over a number of years now, we've built that team out to be quite substantial, and we're pretty proud of what it does, and we work with a large number of financial services companies, healthcare providers, government departments, and where it's around the clock monitoring, detection, and response to security events. And below that, we have our information security business, and really it is all about understanding customers' data, the sensitivity of it, where it's kept, how they need to keep it, compliance and regulatory needs around that as well. So it is full end to end, as opposed to a lot of the cyber companies out there right now, which might only address one small part of the cyber landscape. And what we're finding is customers want full service. They want organisations that can come in and work with them, understand their landscape, understand what's important to them, and actually build offerings and maturity and around those environmental issues that they've got. So next slide. So this is our business model. So we've been running this model now for quite a number of years. You'll see along the top, we're in the business of identifying, protecting, detecting, responding, and recovering from cyber incidents. And we do that through the 3 layers of our business that I described just previously. Our advisory services are there to identify gaps in customer security postures. It could be against a particular standard like ISO or NIST, or it could just be against some internal benchmarks, metrics that the business may have put in place. Once we identify those gaps, we then have a technical services group, and really their job is to close out those gaps and enhance potential security controls that are already in place. And what we tend to find from there is a lot of customers then turn around and say, well, we don't have the capability, the maturity, or the breadth to actually manage these controls going forward. Could you actually do that for us? So really our 24/7 ISOC is there to manage what the customer's currently got today, but also more importantly is to make sure we've got continuous improvement. One of the big things around cyber, it can't be a project. The day you implement it, if you don't touch it again, it becomes redundant and out of date rather quickly, because customers' environments change, threats change. So you really need to be continuously moving that platform forward. And really, to the right-hand side there, it just describes the life cycle of how our business is self-perpetuating, how the SOC business actually funds and funnels more opportunity in through the advisory services business, who then in turn generates opportunity for the technical services business, who then generates opportunity for the managed services business. So it's a model that's worked. It's allowed us to grow quite quickly. We have a high base of repeat customers and long-term contracts, and it's because of that model that the process works, and that's what we're going to continue to do inside the Spirit business as well. Next slide. So in a very simplistic way, this slide basically shows how we actually operate our security operations center. So one of the advantages that we took a number of years ago is we wanted to have global capability. What we know is, and particularly out of incidents like we're currently experiencing now with COVID, is that geographies can be susceptible to geographic and health issues. And we really wanted to have some resiliency by having multi-point locations. Also to that, we just get a greater range of staff that we can call upon. We get staff members working more in daylight hours, which is also better for them. So our SOC is global, but we also have the capability to deliver sovereign capability inside of Australia if a customer wants that. To the left there in the center, it just basically shows a breakdown of how we actually build out our SOC. And this is an incredibly simplistic view of it, but what it's really trying to show here is we have diversification in roles inside the business. We have subject matter experts working on what they do. They're not a jack of all trades, but there's a lot of maturity and process that sits inside of that group, from the principal consultants at the top to the analysts group in the middle there, and then the engineering group who are responsible for managing all the technology that actually supports that. But I can't stress that is a very simplistic view. The reality is, in having a SOC, is you need a lot of capability, you need specialist capability. And without scale, you cannot have that. Today we have probably one of the largest SOCs available in the country. We're about to go through a process of actually expanding that out, the capability and the type of resources we have in there. But ultimately, what it means for our customers is they're getting absolute experts 24/7 working on their security issues. And then to the left there, we actually manage, whether it be the customer's infrastructure and alerts on site, whether it's based in the cloud, whether it be Azure or AWS. we basically take all those threats and we investigate them and we triage those threats to the point of remediation. And then last but not least, in the top left-hand side is, people think that cyber is all about, people stealing their data and disrupting systems. Some of the work we actually do in that FSI space is around fraud and transaction monitoring, which is a really interesting space, whether you be in insurance or superannuation or retail banking. There's a lot of work that we do in that space around orchestration and automation. So it is a very, very, very high value service. We can do a lot more in that group than just basically triaging security incidents. So next slide. Over to Q&A.
Thanks, Julian, for that great overview. You've really talked about the full service offering of Intalock, but why don't we drill down a bit more as to what really differentiates the business?
Yeah, so once again, it's about capability. It's an incredibly interesting market at the moment, whereby everybody wants to be in it, whether they're good at it, bad at it, whether they've done it for a long time or a very short period of time. But what we do know from clients is they want highly sophisticated capability. They want a number of disciplines inside of cybersecurity covered. We've built out a very extensive business with a large number of highly skilled professionals in that, whether it be advisory services, testing services, technical services, or security operations center type of services. We offer the whole gambit. So clients haven't got to go and try to engage 5 or 6 companies, try to onboard 5 or 6 companies, get them up to speed about their environment. We are one throat to choke when it comes down to cybersecurity.
Great, thank you. And you've touched on some of the triggers for the recent growth in cybersecurity. What's going to continue driving that into the future?
It's not going to stop. So cybersecurity now is an arms race. For it to stop, we would have to get every cybercrime organisation out there to basically agree that they're going to change industries, stop monetising crime, and that's never going to happen. I mean, some of the statistics you see today is that cybercrime now is larger than the drug trade globally. So it's an awfully lucrative business, and particularly when you have some particular countries that are turning a blind eye to cybercrime and in some cases even helping them facilitate cybercrime. And then on the other side to that, it's nation state. Everybody's trying to get one-upmanship. There are some global programs going on around harvesting of information on individuals, intellectual property. It is not going to stop. It only gets bigger and deeper from here. It never gets smaller. If you're not thinking about your organisation and the risks that you face in regards to cyber, then I think you might get a shock very, very soon. But it's not stopping.
Right. Now, Sol said he looked at a few companies, but actually I heard that you had a few offers. So can you tell us what brought you to Spirit?
Yeah, it was interesting. So like I described before, highly attractive space to be in. Large number of acquisitive companies that absolutely need this capability. There is a shortfall of highly sophisticated cyber companies out there. So, at the end of the day, we did have a large number of opportunities available to us, and we really like what Spirit had to offer. So my vision is that security should be ubiquitous. And what I mean by that is when organisations go and procure services from companies, security should be built in. It should be secure by design. And what we're currently seeing at the moment in the marketplace is there's a lot of services out there that aren't secure. And then what occurs is organisations have to try to retrofit security around that. And that's very difficult and costly, and there's high risk in that. Our vision with Soul and Spirit was that we would take what we have built today, all of that intellectual property and capability and process, and we'd actually build that into the services that Spirit actually offers to its the companies that use it today and rely upon it. And that doesn't matter if it's at a telco level, a hardware level, a software level, or the managed service wrapped around it. Our vision and the reason why we chose Soul and Spirit was that we would be able to take what we have built today, build it into their services, and customers will benefit from that. But also my customers will benefit. There's a large number of services within the group and capability that my customers need that I cannot offer today. And I wouldn't be offering it to them unless they were secure services. So, 1 + 1 for me, for Nicola and I meant 3. And Sol was a phenomenal fit for us, and it was a really easy decision to make.
Great. I've just got one more question for you, but I'd like to invite the audience to enter in any questions that they have for us before we move to audience Q&A. I think you touched a bit on the vision that now you're part of Spirit. Have you got any sort of final words around, the outlook for the year ahead now that you're part of the Spirit team?
Yeah, our outlook's pretty exciting. And whilst I won't dig too far into it, there's a lot of opportunity that we are working on with different parts of Spirit, and literally within the first week, there's a number of significant opportunities across all different parts of the business. Intalock is going to continue to grow. There's no doubt about that. We have a highly competitive offering out in the market. We have phenomenal customers that we work with. And then when you combine like the Spirit capability and with that, like the next while, it's going to be pretty hectic, and it's going to be very, very exciting. And I can't wait to get stuck into it.
Thank you, Julian. Now, if there's anyone who has any questions, please feel free to put them into the question and answer session. I've got one to kick off with. Sol, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the acquisition pipeline, what that looks like.
Oh, thanks, Kai. Always an M&A question around. First, I just want to thank Julian for he's such an impressive person. So before we take Q&A, thanks, Julian. We're just it's fantastic to have you on the team. I think everybody can see when I talk about not just acquiring profit but people, the quality of the organisation and yourself and what you've built there. So great to have you on the team, mate. Well, welcome again. Kai, on M&A, look, we've still got a really good, healthy pipeline. There's nothing imminent that we're looking at kind of on this side of Christmas. We'll all take a break and have a look at that pipeline again. We've got most of the product. If you look at the operating model slide that I put up earlier, if you think about where we've come from, which is just that pure telco play off a fixed wireless service, we're now a mature IT telco organisation in terms of what we can offer. So there's very little that we can't do from a product set capability perspective in terms of acquiring other IP. Cyber and mobiles, which should be launched organically, we're really the last parts. So if we did look out on acquisitions, it's probably around scale up and down the East Coast. Not that we're going international, but there's certainly opportunities through Singapore, and obviously with the opportunity that Julian has with a global SOC, there's Asia Pac opportunities, and his client base in particular allows us to look at opportunities almost globally, in particular in Asia Pac. So nothing immediate, but if there's something, it'll be probably around distribution and maybe scaling more in that small business segment. I'm really comfortable how we're now operating in mid-market to corporate, particularly with Intalock. We'll do more with our sales organisation, but there's no shortage of good opportunities and good businesses. But right now, the good news is we're saying no to more because we want quality assets. And with Julian and Nicola in that business, you can see the quality of the assets that we choose when we do pick the right partner to acquire.
Great, thank you. Julian, a question for you. Who are Intalock's main competitors, and how do you differentiate the business when you pitch your services to prospective clients, advisory through to managed?
Yeah, it is. And there's a number of competitors out there, and whether they be publicly listed or some of the ones that are through private equity at the moment, and the really notable ones. Really, end of the day, our service is about high capability, but it's about being personal. We go out of our way to actually understand our customers' environment, their industry, how they operate, how they behave. So rather than taking this approach that quantity is better than quality, we want to have capability and quality. So we work very, very hard in understanding their business, their landscape. We put people on site, even out of our SOC. There's a lot of work that we do there to differentiate. There are a lot in the market, and there's a lot that just don't have sophisticated capability as well, particularly in the lower end. I mean, the market right now is incredibly fragmented, and there's only a handful of providers like us out there, and the majority are quite small, to be honest.
Thank you. Our next question, with Apple Mac OS devices growing in use within business and government, how is the business attending to this growth for cyber? Majority of the products shown in today's presentation are Microsoft-centric.
Yeah, so it is interesting. So there certainly are less cybersecurity tools out there for iOS than other operating systems, particularly Windows. Having said that, a lot of the services we provide are agnostic. It doesn't matter if it's iOS, it doesn't matter if it's Linux, it doesn't matter if it's Windows. Like, we have a service there that covers everything. Some of our clients, and I genuinely mean this, run tens of thousands of Apple devices. We wrap services around that to make sure that, if anything's detected, we can respond to it. So really, we don't have a limitation in our service around looking after iOS customers at all.
Great, thank you. I'll do one more prompt for questions from the audience. We don't seem to have any more questions, so I just want to say a big thank you to you, Julian. Thank you and welcome to the Spirit Business. And Sol, I'll hand over to you for some final words.
Thanks, Kai. Thanks for doing the Q&A. And once again, thank you, Julian. Really impressive and fantastic to have you in the team, and certainly the capability around the cyber. Look, so just to wrap up, as a summary of the year, it's been an extraordinary year from a commercial front, but also a difficult year in terms of COVID. We have grown to become, circa 100 mil revenue pro forma business into 21. We've beat some of the targets that we set for ourselves. So, but more importantly, we've got a really good group of people. We've got a great culture. We're ambitious, and we won't stop working hard. So, going forward, this organisation is no longer just a small telco. It's a fully integrated IT services business with telecommunications networks as well. And that's what we continue to pitch to the market, and that's what we'll continue to win business. So we look forward to winning more business off the large providers and growing in particular in the mid-corporate market. On that note, I'll close. I want to thank everybody for the year, for their support, for those participants from retail investors to institutional investors, and wish everybody well through Christmas and the new year. And look forward to speaking to you again in 21. All the best.